John Ruprecht with Cubic 3D LLC.
That's the one. All right. So as she said, my name is John Ruprecht. I'm the owner of Cubic 3D. We're a 3D design and printing company. I guess I'm here to talk about my business, but I'm really here because Yvonne wouldn't let me not do it. She just kept bugging me until I decided I would do it. So some of the things that I've done, one of the ones that I'm most proud of, I guess, is I presented on April 7th in 2017 in Memphis, Tennessee, on some 3D printing research that I've done. So that's the National Conference of Undergraduate Research, and I'm also accepted to present in 2018 at a conference in Oklahoma on undergraduate research as well. And I've also done several other things, worked in the lab 3D printing at school, helped a lot of graduate students with their grad projects that involve 3D printing, and Yvonne has also roped me into helping here against my will, but she does feed me, so that does help. So what we do, our primary thing that we do is 3D printing. So that's what we do most of. We just 3D print anything and everything that someone would want 3D printed. I mean, there's not really a common product that we print. That's a really common question I get, is like, what's the most common thing we print? And it's really variable because the people are designing them. So, I mean, everything's made out of plastic, and that's about as general as I can get with it, but as specific as I can get too. We also do a lot of 3D printer maintenance. A lot of people that own 3D printers will break something. They don't know how to fix it because it's kind of a technical, you need to know, different specifications for different things of the printer, so we have to go and fix their printers for them. We'll do 3D printer consulting. That's a lot of companies want to buy a 3D printer but don't know what to get or don't know how fancy to get with the printer for what they need. So a lot of times companies will buy printers that aren't good enough or are too good for what they need, so they either spend too much money or get something that they can't use. And we also do some computer-aided design or CAD drafting for people that have ideas that they want to get printed but don't have any way to get it into a form that is 3D printable. In the future, we want to get more into subcontract manufacturing, where someone has a design they want, but they want 10,000 of them or more, and 3D printing is not really a good way to do that, just because it takes a really long time to do compared to other forms of manufacturing. So we'd like to take the designs that people give us and talk to companies that we're involved with and say, we have this design, we want to give you this, we might want a certain percentage of that design for our profit, I guess. And then we want to get it more into renting 3D printers to individuals or companies that want to use a 3D printer but don't necessarily want to buy one right away. So they just want to use one for a week or two to print a few things that they want to see if they are 3D printable for their use, and then so they can rent that and then give it back to us at the end of the week, and then they can go from there consulting-wise or whatever they want to do with the 3D printer. So current uses for 3D printing, just because a lot of people have what I've seen is kind of this misconception of what 3D printers are. So it was developed in 1982, actually, so that's how long 3D printers have been around, and it was originally used for just prototyping because a lot of the plastic was really weak, it was really brittle, there wasn't a lot of other things you could do with it. Later, when it became more mainstream, people started using it for end-use manufacturing, so there's parts that you can make that are able to be 3D printed and sold. After that, a lot of artists started using them, so they'll make different sculptures and things like that for display. And then people are starting to use them as promotional products as well. So we'll print a lot of bottle openers, business cards even. We'll do things like that. And then you can make small desk toys, fidget toys, stuff like that people just find kind of neat to have around. It's kind of a novelty item. There's a few examples that I have of like artwork that people have done that I just found by Googling 3D printed art. But there's things like candle holders or light holders like that you can print. One more kind of involved one is a bust like this. This is also 3D printed, which is kind of impressive, I think. And then my favorite one is this little guy, which is a cube that turns into a QR code if you shine light through it. So I thought that was pretty neat. It's kind of a neat promotional item that you could print for your company if you had something like that. So the current problem with 3D printers that a lot of people run into is that they just don't really know how to run them, or they buy one and they think it's really easy to use, and then they end up with something that looks kind of like that. And that is not art, but that might be my way to get into art, is just do that. So that is just a print that like delaminated from the bed, and then the printer doesn't know that something is messed up, so it just keeps printing. It'll just keep going for whatever 36, 42 hours or whatever the print time is, and you'll end up with this big ball of plastic that really doesn't look like anything. So there's a really low success rate with many 3D printers that you can buy kind of inexpensively. And over the past 2 years, I've been working in the lab on campus for 3D printing, and I've seen that probably about 8 out of 10 prints that other people do are unsuccessful or end up like that or have some other problem with them that results in failure, and they just have to throw it away and kind of start over. And in the same lab, on the same printers with the same software, what I found is like there's only like a 5% fail rate with the prints that I do, just because there's a level of expertise with the software and different variables that you can change to come out with a successful print. So also in the market too right now, there's kind of like 2 different areas that you can be in. There's the prototype to final design, and then there's manufacturing and finished product. Most companies are in the first half or the last half of that, so there's like engineering firms that will do a lot of prototyping and final design things, and then they give that to the customer, and the customer has to go find a manufacturing firm that will give them the finished product. So what I'd like to do is kind of bridge that gap too, where I do a lot of the prototyping and give them a final design, but then I'm also connected to other manufacturing firms that I can just take the product there with that subcontract manufacturing and give them manufacturing capabilities to the finished product. In the future, I would like to do all 4 of those. This is kind of my goal, to get into that area. I do have a lot of experience with CNC machining, which is computer numerical control. It's a lot of lathe, milling machines, things like that. So you basically make things out of metal, but that's all subtractive manufacturing instead of additive manufacturing, which is what 3D printing is. But with this, prototyping is really the most valuable step in the manufacturing process, but it's also the most expensive with traditional manufacturing means. You can learn the most from the prototype, but you're only making one, so it gets really expensive really fast, and then if you want to make another iteration of that prototype, then you're only going to make one of something different. So with traditional manufacturing methods, that is very expensive, but with 3D printing, you can change those variables really fast, and you can you can print several iterations of the same thing within a matter of days or a week instead of looking at a month to 2 months to make something. So affordable access to this 3D printing and manufacturing is really big, because a lot of companies now in the industrial market will sell you 3D printing or 3D printing services at a really high rate. I've gotten them priced out just for my own purposes at the school and things like that we've wanted to get projects done. And what I found is from what they're selling to what I would be selling, it's like a factor of 10 on how much they charge, just because all their machines are proprietary. They're running their own filament, which is also proprietary, and then they're going to keep printing it until it turns out correctly, but they have a pretty low failure rate because everything is really closed system there for them, which is not true for most people that would just buy a 3D printer. So getting back to what Cubic 3D actually does, we turn your ideas into products. So if you guys have an idea or like just something sketched out on paper, we can take that and turn it into something that is 3D printable and give you a finished product. And we can do that a lot easier than a lot of other people with 3D printers because we have extensive expertise in 3D printing. I myself have done 2 or almost 3 years of research now with 3D printing. We've done a lot of computer-aided design work with different CAD softwares, and we're less expensive for the same quality because we're not using the proprietary products that other 3D printer companies are using, which is also a factor of about 10 is how much more expensive those proprietary items are. So I mean, in the end, I guess we're just the same quality, but we offer you the same product at the same quality because we've done a lot of modifications and things like that to our printers, and we're just not using the proprietary consumables for that. So I guess that would be all I have for you guys. If you guys have any questions.
John, thank you, and I'm sure we have some questions.